This woman was raised by a mafia killer, but how? Who is she and why did they raise her this way? Deep in the heart of New York's Little Italy in the early 20th century, there lived a man named Don Fanucci. He was not your ordinary man. No, sir. Don was the head of one of the most feared families in the Mafia. His word was law, and his enemies often found themselves sleeping with the fishes. One day, Don Fanucci's world got turned upside down, giving them away to one of his most trusted men and his wife, Vito and Maria Corleone. They gave them all the love and attention they needed, treating them like their own. Carlos and Gina already had a daughter of their own, Isabella. She didn't have to learn how to cook and clean like Isabella would have if she grew up as a girl. Instead, she got to play outside and do more adventurous stuff. It was a much better way for her to grow up. And as you can imagine, this made her feel super grateful towards her parents. You see, as the kids got older, they started asking questions. Michael and Connie were curious about their real parents, wondering who they were and why they were given away. After learning the truth about his real dad, Santino became obsessed with the idea of meeting him. He wanted to know why Don Fanucci had given him up and find out if he had any other siblings. And guess what? His wish came true. One day, Don Fanucci, who was getting pretty old by then, decided to retire from the mafia life. There were dangers around every corner and you had to be on guard all the time. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button.
Thanks for watching.
But these kids proved that it wasn't all bad. They learned valuable lessons about loyalty, respect, and protecting their own. They also learned that family isn't just about blood ties. Sometimes it's about the people who love you and care for you the most. He moved to a different city, changed his name, and tried to start a new life. But you know what they say, you can't escape your past. Eventually, Santino tracked down his real dad. Can you imagine the shock on both their faces when they found out they were father and son all those years later? In talk about a plot twist. On the other hand, Santino was curious about his real father, the infamous mafia Don Fanucci. Meanwhile, their adoptive parents, Vito and Maria, felt the weight of the secret they'd been keeping for so long. They knew they couldn't hide the truth from their kids forever. But instead of adding another daughter to the mix, Gina secretly decided to raise the baby girl as a boy. They explained that even though they weren't related by blood, they were still their real parents. As for Connie and Michael, they were surprised to learn they had a twin. But it didn't change their feelings towards each other. They learned the ropes from Vito and Maria, mastering the art of making money and staying ahead of the cops. As the years passed, they became respected members of the mafia community. In fact, it brought them closer together. The three of them promised to stick together no matter what. He decided to leave the mafia life behind and make something of himself. He went to college, got a job in a respectable field, and started a family of his own. Even though he left the mafia, he never forgot his roots. He often visited his adoptive parents, Vito and Maria, and his siblings, Connie and Michael, always feeling grateful for the life they had given him. They played together, fought together, learned the family business together. They were thick as thieves. However, living in the mafia world wasn't exactly a walk in the park. You see, it's a high-risk, high-reward kind of life. These kids were smack dab in the middle of it. They saw their parents working long, strange hours, sometimes not coming home for days on end. They witnessed tense meetings with shady characters and once even saw a dead body being carried out of their house. It was clear to them that their parents' work was dangerous, and they were in constant fear of something bad happening to them or their family. She named her Santino, cut off her hair, and dressed her in boys' clothes. Yeah, it might sound crazy, but growing up in the mafia wasn't all bad. Sure, there were threats and violence and all that, but it also taught them valuable lessons about loyalty, respect, and protecting your own. These are qualities that help shape them into successful young adults. Why, you ask? Well, in the mafia world, there's a whole lot of danger, and keeping your kids safe is like the most important thing ever. If someone found out that Gina was raising 2 boys when she was only supposed to be raising 1, things could have gone really bad for her and her whole family. Trust me, you don't want to mess with the mafia, yet there was a twist. Maria had only 1 child of her own, a son named Michael, and she treated both boys as her sons. Even though they weren't biologically related, this little secret remained hidden from everyone except Vito and Maria until many years later. Vito and Maria didn't question Don's decision. even though they had enough money and love to take care of the babies themselves. They knew that the life their boss and his daughter would have provided for the infants was far better than what they could offer. Plus, it was an honor to be asked to raise the Don's youngest. His wife gave birth to not just any child, but a set of twins. Women were expected to stick to traditional roles, making babies and keeping the house in order, while the men went out and made the money. And as the head of his family, Don Fanucci had to keep up appearances. You don't call yourself a Mafia Don and have people think you're soft, right? So having a third kid at that age wasn't exactly ideal. Just don't get me wrong, he loved his kids. But having more mouths to feed meant more expenses. And we all know the Mafia ain't known for being generous, especially when it comes to sharing their hard-earned cash. This was a big deal because Fanucci had only one daughter from his previous marriage who he absolutely adored. The twins were an unexpected surprise, especially since his wife was well into her 40s when they were born. But like they say, better late than never. Or was it? See, the thing with the Mafia back in those days was that it was a man's world. The solution, unfortunately, was pretty grim. Don Fanucci decided to put the twins up for adoption as soon as the twins arrived. Vito and Maria wasted no time in settling them into their new home. Meanwhile, the girls were given away to another one of Don's most trusted men and his wife, Carlos and Gina. So why did she do this? Well, growing up as a boy allowed Santino to stay out of sight, which kept her safer. Fast forward a bit, and you've got 3 kids, Michael, Santino, and Connie, growing up together as if they were brother and sister. But you know what? Despite all the danger, these kids had a pretty good childhood. Speaking of becoming adults, let's talk about what happened next. So here's what they did. Vito and Maria sat their kids down and told them the truth about their biological parents. Now, here's where things get interesting. As for Connie and Michael, they decided to follow in their parents' footsteps and take over the family business. And as for Santino, well, he took a different path. Now, here's the thing. Growing up in the Mafia world was not easy. So what do you think? Would you have been able to handle growing up in the Mafia? Let me know in the comments below.